Hello and welcome to The Security Strategist. My name is Aparna Sundararajan and I will be your host for today's podcast. I have spent 15 years in IT research and advisory, empowering C-suite executives to craft effective strategies in cybersecurity, data analytics, cloud computing, and AI. And today I have the privilege to continue our podcast series on cloud detection and response. We spoke with Palo Alto Networks threat researcher Nathaniel Quist in the last episode. And in this episode, we will discuss the components of an ideal CDR solution. And to discuss that, I have Mohit Bhasin, Senior Product Marketing Manager from Palo Alto Networks, joining us here. Mohit, welcome. Before we jump into the questions, how about a quick introduction from yourself?
Well, Aparna, thank you for having me here today. For those that don't know me, my name is Mohit Bhasin. I'm on the product marketing team here at Palo Alto Networks, leading cloud runtime security. I've been with the company for about 5 years. Prior to Palo Alto Networks, I was a tech evangelist at Salesforce, and I have a background in computer and electrical engineering. And I love to build things with my hands. Just a quick fun fact about me, I'm still in process of building a deck in my backyard, currently in the last stages where I need to finish staining and painting the deck. So that is exciting news for me that I'll be done with that. But like I said, I'm really happy to be talking about cloud detection and response today.
That's amazing, Mohit. That just says that you have a lot of patience to build products and build a deck. On that note, from your experiences of working in probably some of the very high-tech companies today, we all understand that in this digital world, cloud infrastructure is the bedrock for exponential organizations, and cloud security, hence, becomes the cornerstone for success for these organizations. From that perspective, let's begin by understanding what is cloud detection and response, and how does it fit into the equation for most organizations today?
Yeah, in my opinion, I believe if I were to sum up cloud detection and response in one sentence, it's the ability to, one, analyze, protect, and then detect and respond to potential cloud security threats or attacks. And if I were to break it down further, there's one critical aspect of it is that real-time protection. So you want to stop as many attacks as possible before you go and detect and respond to it. And that's the ideal approach that any organization should take, is because you should try to stop attacks before you try to resolve incidents or breaches. And the reason why cloud detection and response matters is because on one hand, you have your cloud security teams, and on the other hand, you have your security operations team. And today, the cloud security teams don't have the proper, one, protection or the context into active breaches or active attacks in their environment. And then two, the security operations doesn't really have any real-time visibility or protection to actually stop attacks or respond to them effectively, which is why we see more and more practitioners asking for cloud detection and response when it comes to protecting their entire cloud estate.
That's a really good point that you mentioned there in terms of what the customers are asking about. Are there any critical stories or customer stories that you have wherein you thought that CDR really played a big role?
Yes, I was speaking to a large cryptocurrency exchange, and I was talking to both their cloud security and their SOC team. And the analogy that they gave me was that their traditional solutions operate like a point-in-time scanning. And what they meant by that is they scan every 12 or 6 hours. And they said to me is that imagine that, you have a house with the door or window open, and every 12 or 6 hours you have a security guard drive by and tell you like, hey, we see a door or a window open. But if there was a possible robbery taking place in between that 12 or 6 hour period, the security guard wouldn't really know until after the fact. And that's when they would report the problem. And that's how they felt with their current CNAPP or CSPM solutions is that they did a point in time scanning and they didn't really have that real time visibility into what was going on and in their environment. And what they were looking for was more of a state of the art security system that could, one, pick up like any motion or any sign of a breach into their house. And if there was an active robbery in place, it could alert them so that, one, they could take action and maybe call the cops, or two, they could actually be notified so they can close the door or close the windows to actually prevent or even stop the attack from even happening.
And just a follow-on question from that, from your experience, what did the client have that was right for, the implementation of CDR? Just trying to understand if there are other customers who are thinking about implementing CDR, what would be the prerequisites?
I think, when it comes to prerequisites, I think it's just, if they have a cloud estate that they're looking for real-time visibility and protection is just a simple prerequisite. Obviously they want to elevate their security to get the best protection possible.
And how about organizations that probably might have multi-cloud environments or maybe a combination of both on-prem and cloud environments?
That's a good point. So cloud detection response isn't only for like public cloud environments. It's for, if you have applications running on various public cloud environments or even on-prem, because ideally, if you even have a private cloud environment, you should have some sort of real-time visibility and protection to, one, tell you if there is an attack or if there has been an attack, and then two, to provide that contextual guidance of what actions to take to actually remediate at the source or contain the incident.
I realize that and I like this fact a lot, that you've mentioned real-time visibility and real-time analysis and alerts quite a few times. And from my perspective, looking at cybersecurity, the way it has been done so far, I think we do need something absolutely disruptive, especially considering AI-driven attacks or zero-day vulnerabilities that happen, and also the future of AI. So from an emerging technology perspective, or from the way you look at the future, say in next 5 years, how do you see CDR evolving and helping organizations?
So I see CDR as like one part of the puzzle when it comes to an organization's cloud security practice. And what I mean by that is, ideally, they need a unified approach to cloud security, starting in code to cloud, moving to SOC. And the reason why is, in code, they should try to, continue with the best practices to secure code by design, making sure that misconfigurations and vulnerabilities are not making it into production. And then two, in cloud, they should always try to proactively reduce risk across their environments to make sure, one, they're managing their security posture, and then two, they're eliminating risks that are in production today. And then three, like in the SOC phase, they need a solution or an approach that, one, can stop as many attacks as possible before they materialize, and then provide them with the detection and response capability so that if there was an active incident or an active attack, that they can respond effectively, as well as understand and pinpoint the root cause of the incident so that they can take action on it. And this approach goes from code to cloud to SOC, but it also works from SOC to cloud to code, where if they do see an active incident occurring in the SOC environment, they can actually, pinpoint the root cause and trace it back to cloud, and then figure out where it's originating from in the code, and then give that to the development or engineering team to go and fix, so that this issue or incident doesn't happen again in the future. And that's where I think the future is heading towards.
That sounds like a very holistic approach to cloud security, and some of my previous customers have pretty much struggled with it because there are disparate systems and there are disparate teams. So I think it would probably be very important for the clients to also understand what their own operating models are between these teams, especially, what you mentioned, SOC to cloud to the coding team. Now, when we talk about technologies, a number of times we feel like one particular technology can come across or sound like a magic wand which will fix everyone's problems. I'm sure that, Palo Alto Networks and you yourself in your experience would have seen that there is a lot of noise in the market, or so to speak, hyped claims by a number of organizations. From your perspective, what is the most overrated aspect that's talked about for CDR that, you would advise customers to not pay much heed to, probably? And what would be the one most underrated aspect of it that they should actually emphasize and focus on?
Let's start off with the second question first. So the most underrated aspect that we don't really pick up into is the real-time protection, because oftentimes we're always looking at a lot of alerts and a lot of issues after the fact, but we want to arm teams to, one, stop as many attacks as possible, then prioritize and rapidly investigate threats. So that's, I think, the most underrated. Now, when it comes to the most overrated aspect, I think, it's that every tool in the market gives you some sort of visibility. You have to really ask that second question where, hey, what's the type of visibility and what's that context you give me? And how is that context related to my specific environment? I think that's where visibility really matters, is giving you more context and actionable insights to what's actually going on in your environment.
Okay. So from your point of view, the visibility side of things, or the claim of real-time visibility, is that something specific to Palo Alto Networks? Or, if you compare your product with the market, how would you fare?
I think that, most vendors today offer some sort of visibility, but like I said, Palo Alto Networks takes some of the most comprehensive cloud native context and combines it with our best-in-class like runtime protection and detection response capabilities. So we have superior visibility because we can see what others can't today, and because of that nature, we can provide more actionable insights when it comes to detecting and responding to incidents with context.
That's great to hear. And I would like to sort of go back to, from your experience of speaking with, you spoke about the cryptocurrency exchange. Are there any other examples wherein, you would have seen customers who were sort of struggling to understand what the answer should be, and Palo Alto Network was able to sort of help them and guide them?
I think in an ideal approach, the customer wants a solution that can just, one, tell them what's wrong, fix it for them, and then send them an email saying, hey, look, it's been fixed. But today that doesn't exist. But ideally, we want to get to a state in time where we're enabling, analysts, and we're enabling security practitioners to be more productive and efficient with their time, in the sense that we're showing them risk that matters the most, and we're automating a lot of the things for them. And that way they're only focusing on the top 1% of risk that matters most and requires human supervision.
Okay. So would that look like an easy integration to their existing tools that, helps them create a unified defense?
I think they would need to, rethink their strategy long term of how they, one, ingest data, and then two, they one, stitch it together to provide protection, and two, like have another layer of automation on top of that. So they would require a pretty big overhaul in their strategy.
That's a really great point. Again, goes back to some of my customers, and a lot of CISOs do discuss an overall cybersecurity strategy, in which talks about process consolidation and technology consolidation. We do have a problem of too many tools today in cybersecurity, and the integration aspect of it is overlooked a lot of times. So, your point plays right into that. Again, from a holistic point of view, then in that case, from a long-term view, what would be your, if you had to give one advice to all the customers regarding the implementation of CDR or even general cloud security, what would that be?
My biggest advice would be, don't let security be an afterthought. Most of the times when it comes to the cloud and customers innovating and building new applications, security is often perceived as an afterthought or a blocker to innovation, but you should view it as an enabler to securely innovate and move safely in the right direction. And the reason why I say that is because the whole job of the security team is to, one, have the back of the organization, making sure that, they're not being exposed or left vulnerable. And then two, it's to make sure that they're guaranteeing some peace of mind to the customers that they're serving at the end of the day, because that's important.
Oh, that's again a great point. I guess for me, the big takeaways have been, we've talked about real-time visibility, proactive protection, and the last one, a very holistic approach, and not letting the current perception of cybersecurity being an inhibitor, but actually a business differentiator. And CDR seems like a fundamental aspect to enable all of this. Thank you, Mohit, for joining us today. This has been a really incredible conversation for me, and I'm sure it's the same for our audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Aparna.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you took a lot away from today's podcast. For further information on what we have talked about, please head over to paloaltonetworks.com/CDR. We will be back next week with another podcast in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms and follow the conversation on our socials, EM360 Tech on X and LinkedIn. And for more great daily content, head over to em360tech.com.